Hello, and today we're going to go over kind of some very similar fields to yesterday. The difference today is our answers are complex. Complex number, this is a combination of a real and imaginary, and when you write it, it looks like A plus BI. Now, A and B represent numbers, so this could be like 2 minus 5i, this could be negative 3 plus 7i. A complex number is a combination of a real number and an imaginary. Now, the imaginary number is super easy to recognize because it has a little I after it. When you write it, the order is super important. It has to be real, then imaginary. If you were to switch this and say, 7i minus 3, this is considered to be incorrect. Although it seems like it's just out of the wrong order, it's actually incorrect. Now, the I comes from taking the square root of a negative number because I squared is equal to negative 1. This allows us to take the square root of something negative. It was created simply for that reason. So when you take the square root, and now we know there's supposed to be a plus or minus, but just to take the square root of this, let's not worry about the plus or minus. The square root of 16 is 4. And because it was negative under the radical sign, it just includes an I. Now for radical 5, we don't actually have a simplification for that, so we'll call that radical 5. But when you write it, pull the I out. You could write it 5i like this, but is the I under the radical? It's not supposed to be, so it shouldn't even sort of look like it is. And then of course we have the kind that is able to be simplified like this, 12. So 12, we do a factor tree, that's 4 times 3. And of course 4 has two 2's in it. So here's a pair of 2's that comes out. So the 2 comes out, the radical 3 has to stay underneath, or the 3 rather has to stay under the radical, and because it was negative, we also have to include the I. Now for solving this, we would also need a plus or minus in front of those numbers. So this is all just the same thing, we're still factoring, we're just saying, hey, today, the answers can be anything, including complex. So you might have some fractions, you might have some radicals, you might have some imaginaries. It's a little bit of everything today. Nothing in common. So we're going to jump right in here. Multiply to get x to the 4th. Two numbers when you multiply, you get 12 with a difference of 4. So that's going to be 6 and 2. Want the 6 to be negative and the 2 to be positive. So here we get x squared equals negative 2. Take the square root of this. We get plus or minus because of the square root. I because it's negative, and it stays radical 2. Here we get x squared equals 6. Square root of both sides. We get x equals plus or minus radical 6. There's our 4 answers. For problem number 2, nothing in common. Well, again, we got that big number. I'm going to start with 4x squared and x squared. I'm also going to start with 8 so that I'm trying to get to a big number. So 4 times 8 is 32, and if we take away 1, we'll make it 31. So I want this to be positive and this to be negative, so that when I multiply, it does end up being a negative 8. So 4x squared minus 1 equals 0. 4x squared equals 1. When you divide by 4, we get x squared equals 1/4. And we'll take the square root of all of this. This is no radicals or anything. This is plus or minus 1/2. Over here we get x squared equals negative 8. Taking the square root of that. Now 8 is 4 times 2, and 4 has two 2's in it. So 2 of the 2's come out. I comes out because it's negative under the radical, and then one of the 2 stays under the radical. Be careful in number 3. The directions are very clear. It says to solve by factoring. If you were to do this and then take the 4th root, there is a 4th root of 16, and in even root you put plus or minus, so you would get plus or minus 2. You only get 2 answers. There's 4 answers. So be sure to factor this as the difference of 2 squares. Because what you don't get when you do it that way are the imaginaries. So we're still here x squared equals 4. So we did originally get those two answers where we're correct, but they just weren't enough. Here we get x squared equals negative 4. So we get x equals plus or minus. Now the 4 is negative, so we're going to have a 2 and an I. You can write it I2 if you want. It's really the same thing, but generally we like to have the I at the end, but it's not incorrect if you don't. Grouping x squared in the first two, 3x minus 4. Try to get the 36 to a 3, so that's going to be a 12. So we're going to take out a 12 here, and we're left with 3x minus 4. So x squared plus 12 and a 3x minus 4. So here we get x squared equals negative 12. So x equals 12 has a 3 and a 4. So it's plus or minus. The 2 comes out. I comes out, and then radical 3. Over here we get 3x equals 4. So x equals 4/3. And then finally, to tie it back into all the way from the beginning of the week, it hasn't gone away, synthetic division. So again, there's 4 terms. It's not going to be factorable. I mean, it looks like we could group it, and there are some common factors with those 2 pairs, but then the pairs won't match. So to save ourselves some time, we're not going to try to factor it. We're going to use synthetic division. Coefficients are 1, negative 2, 16, and 48, and they're all there, so we don't have any zeros to fill in. Bring down the 1, and we start to multiply. Negative 2 times 1, push it forward. Add. Then we take negative 2 times negative 4, that's an 8. Add. This feels like it might be going wrong, because the numbers usually don't get bigger, but let's keep going. Negative 2 times 24 is a negative 48. Oh, it did work. All right. So now the depressed polynomial, x squared, because this one was x to the 3rd, so you take 1 away. Then you also take 1 away as you write it. So this will be a negative 4x and a plus 24. So 2 numbers, when you multiply them, you get 24 with a difference of 4. I like to think that works, but I don't think it does. 2 times 12, 3 times 8, nope. Okay, quadratic formula. Opposite of b, plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is 16. If you type in negative 4 squared like that in the calculator, it gives you a negative 16. Just square the 4. You know it's going to be positive. Minus 4 times 1 times 24. All of this is over 2. It's really 2 times 1. So now we have 4 plus or minus. This is going to be, I'm going to put this in the calculator if you have to, 16 minus 4 times 24. So it's really 16 minus 96. So we get 4 plus or minus the square root of negative 80 all over 2. So 80 breaks down. Let's just start with 2 times 40. And 40 is 2 times 20. 2 times 10, 2 times 5. We got a lot of 2's. Here's a pair that comes out. Another pair that comes out. This, no pair, stays home. So this is 4 radical 5. Oops, sorry. 4 radical, yeah, that's a 5. Why did I write down 2? Nobody knows. So it's really 4 radical 5. So now we're back down here. So 4 plus or minus 4i radical 5 over 2. And we can reduce all these because they're all divisible by 2. So then the answer is x equals 2 plus or minus 2i radical 5. And don't forget about this. So x plus 2 equals 0. Also, we get negative 2. Few problems to practice on the back. Remember, anything goes, radicals, imaginaries, fractions, whole numbers. Let me know when you have questions.